So thanks for those that have already come in and have joined us this morning. This is, I think, our 13th event, second or third one now on Zoom, unfortunately. It's always nice to see everybody face to face, but I'm sure the time will come again. So we are joined this morning by Karen and Mark from Blackhawk. We've known Blackhawk for a number of years. They are in Apsley, actually next to us, but they are a global incentives and benefits company. So the topic for today is, has the world of work changed forever? I think it's quite important for us to talk about COVID, pre-COVID, post-COVID, how things are now looking and what employees are looking for, employees, sorry, are looking for. So I'll cover off a presentation after Karen and Mark, but I'll leave them to introduce themselves and get going.
Well, thank you very much again, Aidan. As I said, it's been a pleasure, and we're looking forward to today. I thought just before I start with the actual presentation, just do a quick intro and talk a little bit about who we are as Blackhawk. So those that don't know Blackhawk Network, we take pride in leading the branded payments industry. Have got some exciting products that people love to give and of course receive. We all have the child within us. Besides the huge variety though of choices and the ways that we can reward and recognize employees and customers, we're also known for our benefit schemes. We have Cycle Scheme, Pure Card, and then of course the Tech Scheme. So my colleague Mark, who is also on today, will cover any questions around the benefits schemes after this. So if we can, before we go forward, Aidan, are we possible to do a quick poll and get everybody up and ready? So there you go. The employee engagement, has employee engagement become less or more important as part of the new normal? Wow, more important. That's fantastic.
Unanimous.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're seeing that as well. We're seeing that as well. Perfect, thank you. All right. Let's get that off, and off we go. So today I wanted to cover, has the world of work changed? Challenges seen in trying to return to some point of normality, and how some of our customers are adapting to change. But before we do that, I thought it would be good just to cast our minds back to probably about 7 months ago, believe it or not, to what we know, or some people would say, as the old normal. How did we boost morale and foster a sense of community? Well, many companies and departments would have weekly, bi-weekly employee social drinks, meals after work. We can't forget the Friday afternoons off, where we leave the office while our colleagues are still sitting there working. Monthly social events, subsidized gyms, subsidized canteens. That was typically the old world. And of course, let's not forget about our daily commute. Most of us would leave our homes in the morning and go to work, offices, factories, some people work shops, call centers, restaurants, etc. So that was the old. In 4 to 5 months, COVID may just have changed the world at work. And was this the silver lining to the crisis? Well, we heard and we've read many articles where people have said they're enjoying this. The work from home, the remote working, there's no daily commute. It's a comfortable environment to work at home. People feel safer. Some are more productive and some are happier or not. We also hear. So if I look at how we've seen how the government instructed where possible back in 2-3 months ago to work from home, we saw that staff were spending an average of 12% more time in meetings per week since the pandemic began. And that is an article from Bloomberg. Then the day arrived that we were all waiting for, the lift of the lockdown, the government encouraging people to return back to their place of work. But according to iNews, fewer than 1 in 6 returned to work. Of course, many of them, many staff and employees are still requesting to remain working from home. They say they've got the technology, and of course, most of all, it's saving time and money on commuting. What does this mean, though, for businesses? Of course, this is a concern for people returning, and disastrous for our cities and shops, restaurants, and even our transport systems. The reopening of shops has not had a significant effect on attracting people back to the city centres. We've all been shopping like crazy, if anyone's like me, shopping like crazy, and you know, it's been working perfectly while in the comfort of our own homes. So everything we've seen has gone pretty much online. Even the commute has changed. We commute, and our journey is now, for most of us, from bedroom to Zoom. And this may just prove to be the new norm. But we're still seeing and hearing from our customers how this is impacting the business. They are seeing that many of the businesses have said that the lack of non-existence of the face-to-face meetings over the past 5 to 7 months with not only customers and prospects, but with their employees too. And this has been a big strain both on businesses and the well-being of employees. So we're seeing this and we're hearing this with our own customers, and it's quite encouraging, and I'll get to that in a minute, but it's quite encouraging to see how businesses are changing this and trying to boost that morale. And mental health, we cannot forget, has become more important, and we just saw that in the poll. It's, you know, how do we keep encouraging employee engagement and lifting that morale? So although the reports are saying that people feel like they want to still remain at home and work from home, we are seeing an increase in the morale that's dropping. Just probably, you know, so is that saying that out of sight, out of mind, some employees are feeling, and that isn't and shouldn't be the case. So how UK businesses are addressing the employee landscape. Companies are addressing the social aspects, the great work-life balance they had pre-COVID, so offering gym memberships, weekly social team gatherings, sales hitting targets by building rapport with meeting clients face-to-face. This now will change. And here's some of the things that some of our customers have been doing over the last few months that I wanted to share with you. 2 in 5 UK companies have changed the employee benefit programs due to COVID, according to Willis Towers Watson. And I wanted to, as said, just share with you some of the things that we've seen where our customers have changed from, you know, the typical long service awards that we would see day in, day out. They've moved here, and one of them is one of our financial service clients. As a way to engage their staff members during the lockdown, they created a virtual cocktail making class. They purchased gift cards from us and sent it out to 79 employees. So they were able to go and purchase the ingredients for the cocktail class. And yes, the feedback, that was the first one that we had actually come across that was very different. So of course followed up with them, and they said thoroughly enjoyed the cocktail class, got the teams talking about it for days afterwards, and they have certainly seen a boost in morale. So in fact, we're actually looking at doing one ourselves at Blackhawk Network. So that was pretty cool. Another company, they said that they hold many events through the year face-to-face events, conferences, and these were for their channel partners, getting together once a year, launching a new product. It was also for long service awards, as well as they had company awards for employee recognition. So as they didn't want to cancel this as, well, face-to-face they canceled, but they didn't want to actually cancel the award. They came through to us and spoke to us about how we were able to help them with something totally different. And one of the things that we did in this instance is we provided a digital one-for-all gift card that was sent to every employee at home with a letter to congratulate them and also giving them the reason for the award. What we also have included in this is we are able to do digital video messages. So if you wanted to create a message from the CEO or a manager, we're able to include that as well. So again, something slightly different and bringing really that personalized touch back to a gift card and showing them that thought has gone into this. And we're giving them something for that and boosting that morale, the recognition and rewards. We have another one here where we recently helped out a customer. They were looking for alternatives to coffee and fruit baskets for the office. So this was some where they were returning to work, but according to government guidelines, they were not allowed to provide any coffee in the office. So what they did was they ordered a whole lot of Costa cards from us and sent it through to the employees and said, grab a coffee on the way to work. And we've seen that go down quite well. And also quite a few customers have taken up on that. We even actually had a customer that reached out to us saying they felt that the face-to-face meetings that they were having with their customers had obviously all come to a standstill and everything was going on Zoom. And how could they be slightly different to competitors? And what they did is they sent out a message saying that something along the lines of, we may not be able to meet face-to-face and discuss business over coffee as we always did, but we certainly can schedule a Zoom meeting and you can have a coffee on us. And they sent the gift cards in the post to customers. So again, you know, many things can be done for customers as well as employees. So I hope that, you know, people can see there's many ways to take this. And of course, guess what? What's in about 74 days, I believe, if I counted correctly last night? Christmas. Who's counting? I am. So yeah, as we know, many or most companies, the parties are off the table. And we've seen a huge uplift in our restaurant choice cards. What we're finding is that more and more customers are buying these restaurant choice cards and giving it then to their employees and saying to them, you know, have a Christmas meal on us. And I think that is a fantastic touch. And like I said, that's probably been one of the biggest uplifts that we've seen over the past 2 months. So in closing, on a high note of Christmas is not far away, what are the key takeaways from today that I think that is worthwhile looking into and that I want to leave you with is we're being urged to return to work. Well, I say that at the time of putting the presentation together, we were being urged to return to work as per the news yesterday and still waiting. We'll see, you know, which parts of the country may go down into tier 1, 2, or 3 lockdown. But key takeaways is fewer than 1 in 6 have returned, and many employees are requesting to work from home, saving on time and money. So what we say to our customers and hearing from our customers are employees are just as important as the customers. And it's to look to provide value. And it doesn't have to be big. Our motto is little and often. And you will see a huge change. One thing is for certain though, that today you can't second guess what someone is into. And that's why, as a company, Blackhawk have devoted themselves to creating products, services, and solutions that are underpinned by the concept of choice. We've also looked in the wake of the pandemic that you can offer digital rewards as an incentive, that you're not only contact free, but work as in this age of digital payments. So in closing, happy employees equals happy customers and improved business performance. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce my colleague Mark to join in with the Q&A. And once again, Aidan, a big thank you from you for inviting us. It's been fantastic, and I hope everybody has enjoyed it. And before we go into the Q&A, Aidan, are we allowed to do another poll?
Absolutely.
How high or low would you rank employee engagement as a strategy for your business recovery? 1 to 5, 5 being the highest. If you would all perfect. Bit of a choice this time and a difference, but an equal with 5 and 4. Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, Aidan. I was 1 minute over. I apologize for
I wasn't timing you, Karen. You have as long as you want. So thank you. Mark, can you? I think we have one question in the Q&A section. I did make you a co-host, so hopefully you can see it. If you can't, I'll read it for you. But I'm hoping you can see that Q&A section.
I can see the Q&A section. The coffee cards is not necessarily my area, however.
Sorry, what was the question there?
Is there a possibility that sending coffee cards to employers for meetings or any gifts to employers can fall under the Bribery Act?
You know, yes, it could, but I guess it's the relationship that you have with your customers or your prospects. You know, it's a nice touch, and you know, we've had 2 customers actually that have used it. One came in with a suggestion, and we provided and we followed up on that, and then speaking to another customer where they were saying that they're finding that the lack of the face-to-face engagement was really dropping, and we made that suggestion, and they took it and they sent it out to 100 clients. Or prospects, should I say, they weren't customers, and gave some feedback, you know, saying that off the back of that, they had some very positive feedback. And the Zoom meetings, by the way, were already scheduled. So perhaps I should have mentioned that. So the Zoom meetings were already scheduled, and then on the Zoom meeting, they said that, you know, have a coffee on us, it's on its way. And because it's digital, they pretty much send it straight away.
So have you got any thoughts for those that are on the call that are thinking, you know, love the idea of employee incentives and engagement and well-being, but I just don't have the money or the budget to spend X amount of hundreds or thousands of pounds on any incentive or reward, but I'd love to know what I can do that may not cost me anything or be very, very cheap that can enhance engagement and improve employee well-being. Have you been asked that, and have you got thoughts for that?
Yes, there's on the benefit side, Mark, where there's some benefits that are of no cost to the customer or very little. Yeah, Mark, if you want to take that.
Yeah, okay, so all 3 of the benefits that we briefly went over earlier are either cost neutral or are actually save you as the employer some money. So we have cycle scheme, which is a salary sacrifice. That is a way that employees can save on purchasing a bike and or equipment and pay it back over a certain period, typically a year. As it is a salary sacrifice, it does mean that the individual employee is going to save on their tax and national insurance. As an employer, because you're, again, because it is a salary sacrifice, you're actually going to be saving 13.8% on the employer's national insurance. So whatever your employee or employees borrow, you are going to save 13.8% in the employer's national insurance. On the other benefits, so tech scheme is very, very similar in that you an employee effectively gets a loan over the course of 12 months. They're going to save in national insurance on that one, but you as the employer, it would be cost neutral. So with both cycle scheme and tech scheme, what that means is that you pay for whatever their loan is going to be initially, but then you recover the cost over the course of a year, and that means it's actually going to be neutral. You're going to save money. And then the retail card is a benefit in which that they can make the most of it, but it doesn't cost you anything. All you have to do is share the link, basically. So yeah, all three benefits that we, albeit briefly covered earlier, are cost neutral or save you money.
Perfect. So we have a couple more questions in there, if you can see them, Karen and Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see. I think it's one for you, Mark, on the cycle scheme.
Where
From Jim, right at the bottom.
Oh, right. Have you any government HMRC opinion on impacts of home working? Yeah, okay. So we haven't had any opinion. We haven't had any sort of formal guidance given to us on that front. We do have the Department for Transport's guidance as a whole, which we can provide, and I can look to get that shared afterwards. In terms of the scheme itself, it has changed recently to include a higher limit. What that means is the government are keen on pushing it, but no, we haven't had any formal comment from the HMRC. Our business is continuing to offer cycle scheme. Yes, they are, and that doesn't seem to have been an issue up to this point.
Perfect. Okay, and we have a question from Keith, and the question is, as regards those who are happier at home and those who are suffering mentally, maybe through loneliness, are they separate groups or do they overlap?
I can try and answer that with not being an expert, but Keith, really getting the feedback from customers and our own internal HR department. We actually in the health and mental well-being week this week, actually. And I do believe that it can overlap. Because if you speak to some of the employees at the moment, they seem happy, but as we go into peak seasons maybe, or half of the family has returned back to work and the other partner is still at home, then we have seen where they've lapsed and they've gone into a bit of loneliness. But again, speaking from my personal opinion, I try and have as many one-to-ones as possible over this time period to make sure that, we're very, very close to them with the employees versus a one-to-one monthly meeting. So mine's gone down to weekly at the moment, just to make sure that we're very close with that and keeping engaged.
And a follow-on question from Keith, which maybe I'll cover in my presentation actually, is in companies where some staff are remote and some in the office, is there stress on the part of those working in the office because of a feeling that there are two separate teams? How can that be addressed? And I can imagine that is happening all over the country, all over the world, and there's a little bit of maybe annoyance from some people that it could be seen as one rule for one and one rule for another. But I think the key thing with what we're all going through at the moment is that there isn't one rule suits all, and we need to show a bit of empathy and support for people that might not be comfortable being in the office 5 days a week, and those that want to come into the office 5 days a week, great for them, and hopefully businesses are doing what they need to make sure it's COVID friendly and they're safe. But there will be some natural maybe annoyance or frustration amongst employees, and I think as leaders it's something that you just need to address, that it isn't one rule for everybody, and you need to adapt to people's needs.
Agreed.
Okay. Okay, Mark and Karen, can you see the question at the bottom from Alec?
Let me go through there quickly. Alec, yes, actually, good question.
I don't know if everyone can see the question either, Karen. I'm not.
Oh, sorry. I do apologise. So, a question from Alec: are you seeing many employers assisting their staff with hardware equipment at home, example desks, monitors, etc.? So, I know one customer that we've dealt with, where they have sent a £500 gift card to the employees for them to go and purchase desks and things like that, chairs for the study, and to make it really work well. But other than that, the hardware and the equipment, we've seen many businesses have adjusted pretty quickly and have sent out all of that to their remote workers. In fact, I know for two instances, maybe Mark can comment on the one where the tech scheme, but a personal experience, I went out to PC World probably about a month into lockdown to go and get a personal laptop, and they were pretty much sold out on everything. So I do know that there was a point where, the cycle scheme and the tech scheme, there was a shortage of equipment.
Yeah, so I can speak a little bit more about that. So tech scheme, to expand on what I said earlier, so what it does is it comes in the form of a Currys PC World voucher, which you as an individual employee is going to pay off over 12 months. Absent of national insurance, or it's going to be via an Apple online store that you would access via our website. So what we've seen a lot of where people's home setups hasn't necessarily been ideal from working from home is that they've offered the tech scheme and allowed people to buy their own equipment as well as supplement it, like Karen said, with equipment from the office, but stuff like 2 screens or a better chair or stuff that is a little bit more preference for the individual employee. We've definitely seen an uptick in the amount of those employers taking tech scheme for this exact reason. Yeah.
Perfect. Do we have any more questions before we move on? I'll give it a minute. Great. Okay. Well, I know that was less than a minute, but I feel like it's a long enough time for people to type a quick question. So thank you, Karen and Mark. I will jump into my presentation. This will be 10 minutes and we'll do a Q&A at the end of it. So there may be some overlink in terms of pre-COVID, post-COVID that Karen has spoken about, and there might be a couple of links here, and we'll jump into the questions at the end.
Brilliant. Thanks, Aidan. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. So I'll rely on Karen and Mark to tell me that you can see my presentation and that my notes aren't on the screen, right?
Yeah, can very much just see that screen, yeah.
All good.
All good, all good.
Perfect. So to jump into this, what I wanted to cover were 3 main topics here. So remote and flexible working, pre and post-COVID, what job seekers are looking for in an employer right now, and then I'll come on to the hiring statistics over the past 6 months. So first thing to note, pre-COVID, remote and flexible working, generally you found that 9 to 5 was the norm. Over the years, we have always seen that individuals have wanted a bit of flexibility, so whether that is a 7 to 3 or an 8 to 4 working day, but there hasn't really ever been much more than that. face-to-face meetings or nothing, both from a colleague perspective and a client perspective. If meetings were pushed back, generally timeframes weren't hit and things didn't get done. Majority of businesses had no work from home policy, or if they did, they only allowed 1 day a week. So the biggest reason for businesses not having a work from home policy was simply that they didn't know how to implement it, and there was a trust issue, and COVID has absolutely thrown that out of the window at the moment. Being in the office was key as well. So are you here, when did you arrive and leave, was almost more important than what are you achieving and what are you getting done when you are here. PwC also did a survey on a few hundred financial services firms and found that 29%, and this is pre-COVID, had at least 60% of their workforce working from home once a week. And I'll come back onto that in a second. Post-COVID, there's been a drastic change in the hours that people work. Only yesterday, I was talking to the head of finance at JD Wetherspoon, who said, actually lockdown has been both really tiring and really stressful and amazing. I work in the morning, I stop at lunch, I go and spend time with the kids, we go to the woods, we build dens, and then actually I come back and I log on in the evening, and I'm managing to fit my work around my children, but also get everything that I need to get done. And I think that there's going to be a big change in the hours that people work now. Maybe when they're in the office, it might be the traditional 8 to 4, 9 to 5, but on a working from home day, you might find that it's a little bit more broken. And if it works, it works. There's a new style of leadership that's emerging, and essentially leaders and managers are now looking at what you've achieved, not how long have you actually been in the office for. And offices are becoming a collaboration and an innovation hub. So when you're in, we collaborate, we look to add value, we talk strategy, and a lot of businesses are finding that when employees are in, there's a lot more collaboration and a lot more focus on how we get through this, new ideas and new strategy, as opposed to just coming into work. And the same PwC poll surveyed the same financial services businesses now that we've experienced the pandemic and COVID, and now 69% of those companies expect to have at least 60% of their workforce working from home at least once a week going forward. However, the ONS did a survey on just shy of 25,000 UK businesses, and they found that 66% said that they do not intend to keep home working as a permanent business model in the future. 19% said they intended to ditch the office space and incorporate working from home into their permanent business model. And 15% were not sure about their future intentions. So, challenges with the new normal. I think people generally talk about it being positive, being at home more, but there are a lot of negatives and challenges to think about. So the social aspect of being at work and interacting with your colleagues has disappeared, and it's leading to poor or poorer mental health. The average worker is spending 48 minutes more each day working at work, at home. There's no shut off from work, so it's easy to log on again when your office is your home. There's no commute to and from work, meaning you can't wind down. And LinkedIn ran a report, and it actually revealed that only 13% of the UK workforce are not looking or tentatively open for opportunities. So that number is huge. That essentially means the majority of the UK are quite open to having a look at new opportunities or actively engaging in trying to find the new job. Now, is that because they have more time to look? Interviews have never been easier to set up, or is it because they don't feel engaged, supported and valued? And as business leaders, we need to look to really incentivize, support and check in with our employees to ensure they feel valued. And there's so many reports on people suffering from burnout. So what are job seekers looking for? understanding and empathy. So I touched on this with Keith's question, but one rule doesn't work for everyone, and not everybody can return to the office due to childcare issues, or maybe they're caring for vulnerable relatives. Maybe they just don't feel safe with everything that's going on and everything they're reading about in the news each day. So employees are looking for flexibility more than they ever have before. Employees, job seekers are keen to understand now how you reacted to coronavirus and how did you look after your employees. So did you furlough those that you had to and look after them whilst they were furloughed? Did you check in on them? Did you top up their salaries? For those that were working throughout, did they feel valued? Were they engaged? Were there socials between the teams? And was there a lot of opportunity for everyone to still gather remotely and do quizzes or just check in, or Friday drinks? And it's quite an important aspect for job seekers, knowing or wanting to know what an employer did throughout this pandemic. And do you have a COVID recovery plan? So if you don't, and you're trying to engage new staff and hire, you might hit a brick wall. But job seekers want to know now what you're doing to get through this. Are you confident, and what your plans are? And trust, flexibility and security. So offer the flexibility that some individuals need. Trust your staff until they show you that they're not trustworthy. Comfort, give them comfort, and I suppose encourage them that their job is secure. Can you guarantee that they're of value? Are they needed? And don't undercut on salaries. People will remember this, and they will leave you when the time comes. So don't take advantage of a situation to save a couple of grand or £5,000. I had a few months ago a large retailer absolutely smashing it at the moment. Its sales are through the roof, and they're experiencing a period that they never had before. But their salaries were £5,000 lower than what they needed to. And their answer was, well, it's an employer's market, and we know that people are out there at the moment. There's loads of people to choose from. So we feel we can, which, granted they could, actually sends the wrong message to job seekers. And I wouldn't be surprised if those that did get £5,000 less now in the new year, when things start to turn and get better, they're the ones that are looking and engaging with recruiters again. Over the past 6 months, hiring statistics we've seen is that qualified positions are still being recruited. Transformation projects are put on hold. There has been a reduction in part qualified and transactional vacancies across the UK. Commercial value add positions are more important than ever. And there has now started to be a slow but confident recovery in the interim market. So the interim market was really quiet. I think generally everyone's thoughts were that interim would be absolutely huge, and there'd be a lot of reasons to hire short-term individuals, commercial accountants, strategy consultants, to really look at cash flow and how we're going to get through this. But we haven't seen a big uplift in interim roles, and I think general thoughts on that are simply that you've got a furlough pool to choose from. So when a business does have a need, or they need extra staff, you go to that furlough pool first. And we're starting to see that change now. There's more redundancies that are being announced. The furlough scheme this furlough scheme is coming to an end, and we have seen an uplift now in senior interim positions. So I think going into the new year, the interim market will really take on in comparison to the perm market. And there are more job applications than ever before. As a minimum, we receive 100 applications per job. I had a finance director job in April, which had over 300 applications for. And that is a huge amount of people to get through. And if you can't shortlist or recruit properly, then outsource. As a business, if you're focusing on costs and you can't afford to use an agency or recruit properly, ask them to narrow down your shortlist for you. You get an agency that knows that market, that hopefully for a bit of free value add can do it for you, can narrow it down so that you've got people to get back to, because individuals will remember businesses that did and that didn't get back to them when they were looking for work. So that brings it to an end, and we'll do a little Q&A. Hopefully we've got a few to go through. I say hopefully, I don't mind if we don't, but I'm happy to answer questions if they come up. Looks like Blackhawk got all the questions, Karen.
It looks like you were the lucky one, right?
Although I do have a poll, which I forgot to do.
Let's do that.
Let's get before we end then. Let's launch this poll and see what responses we get for this. Two questions. What was your work from home policy pre-COVID? And what does your work from home policy look like moving forward post-COVID? If you don't have a policy or you're not in control of the policy, then vote as you would like your policy to look. Okay, so 3 more people to vote. Maybe the last 2 could be Karen and Mark. I'll end it with 1 to go. So sharing these results, it actually doesn't surprise me at all and falls in line exactly with what I was just saying. Many businesses didn't have a work from home policy, and they would allow staff every now and then, occasionally, to be at home. And if you look now, actually, I'm more surprised to see that there's now a work from anywhere policy as 50% of the polls. So I was probably expecting 1 to 2 days a week being the most common answer here. And actually, I think it's really interesting to see that there's now a work from anywhere policy, considering the demographic of this group as well. We don't have anyone from Google or Microsoft on this call, or Twitter. So to see this, I think is really interesting and just goes to show how things have changed.
I agree with you on that one, Aidan. I think also, you know, a comment out there was, you know, a lot of employers, you know, there was that trust factor, letting people work from home. And now when that was taken all out of their hands, I think businesses have done darn well. You know, employees have really jumped on board and shown that they can do it. And I'm pleased with them. As far as the return to work, I must be honest, I think what put most people off was having to wear a face mask. Everybody was fine and dandy wanting to go back to work, but when they heard that they had to have this face mask on for 8 hours, it's like, ugh.
I'm sure, absolutely. Jumping into questions, Keith, you have mentioned thinking about trust and patterns of working. Are employers adopting a hot desking policy, and will it work? So my thoughts on this are, I don't see how a hot desking policy will work. If you think about the rules and regulations around COVID and making your workplace safe, having a hot desk culture means that ultimately after everybody finishes being at that desk, whether it be for an hour or 2 or 8 hours, they're having to clean it and be trusted to clean it themselves at the end of each shift pattern. So personally, I see more of businesses looking to have a regular place for an employee to work, and that being their desk permanently. However, we've not gone back to the office yet, so it's not something we've actually looked at. we had I had a hot desking policy back in 2011, and that worked quite well for what we needed. I think with what we're going through at the moment, it's probably not the most sensible to do a hot desking sort of plan for everybody, but that's just my opinion. Bavin, small organisations, privately owned companies still have the trust issue. I guess that's more of a comment than a question, but I would disagree. I think there are lots of large corporates that have trust issues, and there are lots of small SMEs that don't. And I think it's all individual led. If I look at us as a business, we're an SME. I think there are no trust issues with us. Actually, we've found that a lot of our consultants are more productive and are actually finding they're more efficient working from home. Some people want the support and the guidance and the coaching, and that's where we can help employees where they need a bit of support being in the office. But I don't think a trust issue just sits with small organisations. I think maybe that's just your small organisation, and maybe your employer. But I think across the board, businesses are run by individuals. So if an individual feels that they have trust for staff, it doesn't matter whether they're working in a small or a large company, in my opinion.
I agree with that on that one, Aidan. In fact, I've seen the opposite. With my team have been absolutely amazing. In fact, I have to sometimes get them to switch off their laptops and spend more time with the family, because if they start at 9 to 5, I'm now seeing them come online 7:30, 8 o'clock in the mornings. They're only going offline again at 6, 6:30. On top of the work, it's really been good. It's really been good, or they've been good, should I say?
Yeah, good. And then the flip side of that is, how do we, as you say, how do we manage what work they do and how long they're spending working against whether that's actually good for their mental health, and is there a break between what they're doing and actually go, well, I suppose, is there a balance between work life and home life, or are they working too hard and too much? And that's something you can't really see from afar.
Correct.
So another question here from Jim. So are you seeing businesses recruit people to work from home from different parts of the country? Yes, absolutely. So a few examples, TGI Fridays, their head office is in Luton in Capability Green. Their rule at the moment is you can work from home indefinitely. We have no plans really on telling you when to come back to the office. And even when we do, we probably only expect you to be in the office 1 day a week. And that 1 day a week will vary and change depending on what's going on and whether we have an important strategy meeting. So they've said to me, as long as you can basically say to an employee, I need you in Luton tomorrow, and they can get there, it's not an issue. So whether they're 30 minutes away or 2.5 hours away, it's not a problem for them. We've had a job come up in Derby or Burton-on-Trent, and I've had somebody interview that lives in Bristol. So hours away. But again, they've said as long as you can get to the office 2 days a week, we don't mind. So we're seeing a massive spike in the amount of people that have increased their radius of where they're searching, and employers ultimately saying, look, we're open to where people are based. We don't really mind as long as you can get to the office. A candidate of mine has recently come off the market and found an FD job up in Manchester. He lives in Tring. So the rules for him, or the idea is that he'll go there once a week, maybe twice. But aside from that, it's not an issue, because there is the trust there, and people are being, I suppose, trusted just to get on with their work and do what they need to from afar. So yes, and I think that's going to be a big trend that we see. Ultimately, working from home being something that is not frowned upon. 2 days a week at home is not an issue, and then sometimes even more. Or as the poll suggests, maybe you can work from anywhere. if staff are remote, and so another question here from Keith, if staff are remote and go to the office once a week, do they expect to claim travel costs? I haven't had anybody ask for it, and I think it would be frowned upon if they were to claim travel costs, only because you've gone from a period where you're in the office 5 days a week and there's an expectation that you need to be there 5 days a week, or travel into London 5 days a week, to now having your commute rapidly reduced and your expenses, especially if you're going into London, ridiculously reduced. So if there was expenses to be claimed, I think, or a question around expenses, I think it probably would be frowned upon because of the benefit that working from home gives you and the amount of money or more to spend, sort of cash available in the month you're going to have. So I would be surprised. There will be businesses that offer this though. I think Jim or Alec asked a question about your work from home, so your equipment and your computer and setting things up for you so that you're comfortable at home. There are businesses that have given staff £1,000 to just kit out whatever they see fit into their office or their bedroom and make them feel comfortable, and they don't expect that back, and that equipment is theirs. So there will be businesses that go above and beyond and will give you your travel costs and will also pay for all your equipment and more. But generally, rule of thumb, I don't see this being a thing that comes up, in my opinion. Okay, so Bhavin, our company's open to candidates that do not have the industry-specific experience. This is a frustrating one, and one that I battle with every time I register a job. Again, kind of, I suppose, I would answer this exactly the same as I did the trust question, in that we're dealing with people and people have opinions, and some opinions are that if you haven't worked in the industry, you won't get up to speed quick enough, you won't be strong enough to deliver what we need, and therefore you'll be disregarded and you won't get an interview or you won't be shortlisted. And then you've got other individuals that say, well, throughout my career, I've personally worked in a number of different industries, so I'm open to it. So I don't mind where they come from. There might be a benefit of them being in the same industry, but don't rule people out because of that, and will shortlist based on skill set, personality, and deliverables. So this is something that unfortunately we're always going to find is I suppose, a blocker for some people and not for others. There is an argument that the more senior you become, the more important the industry experience is. But again, there are anomalies to that, and there are a lot of employers that are open to people with different industry backgrounds. Can you develop a career remotely as much as face-to-face? I think you can. Yeah, I think you can. I suppose my thoughts on this are, developing your career is different to developing relationships. And I think it's easier and better to develop relationships face-to-face, but that doesn't mean that you can't be in control of what you do, how you do it, the achievements that you've done whilst being remote, and your deliverables. You could also argue that you'd probably add more value if you're at home more of the time, because you can focus on what you actually have to do and what you need to achieve, and therefore you can probably hit your deadlines a bit quicker because you haven't got that big social aspect to being at work. However, you don't get noticed as much, and therefore the relationships you might be building with senior stakeholders or the MD or the CEOs is also obviously going to falter a little bit. But I think you just need to manage that. I don't think we're going to come out of this pandemic and say, right, you'll never be in the office, you'll never see people face to face, and you're 5 days a week working at home. So there's going to be a fine balance. So we need to take the good of being in an office and the face-to-face interaction that you get, and we also need to take the good of being at home and the remote working, and how you might be able to be more efficient or get things done and hit timelines a little bit easier. So this isn't going to go one way or another. I think we'll find a nice little balance in the middle, and therefore you will develop a career remotely as much as you can face to face. Perfect. Okay, so hopefully we've answered everybody's questions. If you have any more, I suppose you all know how to get hold of me. We'll be sending an email out to everybody just to follow up on this event and to share Blackhawk's details. So I know Karen and Rebecca would like us to send out information of how you can reach Blackhawk and what they can provide, both from a minimal cost perspective and more than that if needs be. So thank you everybody for joining us, and thank you Karen and Mark. It's been a real pleasure to have you on this, and I appreciate you going through Blackhawk and incentives and also just getting people to think about what they can do to empower employees and better engage them. So thank you very much.
Thanks Aidan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks everybody.
Bye.